The following podcast is by Mr. Jim Koewler, elder law and special needs attorney, helping and protecting those who need long-term care. And welcome back to Answers for Elders Radio Network. And we are here with Jim Koewler, an elder law attorney in it's Richfield, Ohio, isn't it, Jim? Is where you're located?
Yeah, Richfield, Ohio, halfway between Cleveland and Akron.
Awesome. Well, I am excited.
I'm getting snowed in at the moment, by the way.
Are you really?
Yeah.
Oh,
We've got a doozy of a storm that's been going on for almost 24 hours, and it's supposed to last about another 15.
Bless your heart. Well, good thing you work from your home office there, sir.
Yeah, well, right now, today, almost everyone is, yeah.
Yeah, so that's good. So we are here talking about who are the individuals that you should select. And our first segment, we talked a lot about, power of attorney and who that individual should be. And obviously, I want to kind of pick up where we left off there. So we're talking about somebody that can really have just somebody that's got some chops that can deal with conflict and deal with scenarios. And I think the other thing, I'd be remiss to bring up the fact that there's strife between siblings and families. And
I don't know what you're talking about. That never happens. What do you mean?
Yeah, exactly.
No,
so that's the other side of it, isn't it?
Yeah. A friend of mine coined the phrase, family is the other F word.
Yes.
And it fits perfectly. I wish I'd thought of it, but I didn't. Sidney Campanaro, I love you, sweetheart. That was a great line.
Yes.
But yeah, so whoever's going to be the agent on your power of attorney, and please don't name more than one agent. Don't name co-agents. You can name successors, but name one person at a time. Because you want one decision maker. If you've got two and they don't agree, then there is no decision. You're stuck in the status quo.
Right.
Okay. There is no power of attorney by committee. Here's an example I like to use. Everyone remembers that Thomas Jefferson wrote the Declaration of Independence, right?
Right.
He was actually part of a 5-person committee named by the First Continental Congress to do so. Who are the other 4 members without going to Google?
I don't know.
Right? That's the point. One person does the job until someone else complains.
Wow.
Stick with one person to do this job. They can listen to anyone they want, but they don't have to listen. They don't have to get agreement. They move forward. So in my view on the power of attorney, you should name, now you can name your spouse if your spouse is not going to collapse under pressure, as I mentioned in the last segment. Okay. After the spouse, name the person or the child who is most likely to take you in should you need long-term care. After that, name and the next successor is the child or a person second most likely to take you in. Okay. Now, if it's your son going to take you in, but your daughter-in-law is going to do most of the work, still name your son as the agent. Okay. But I think a power of attorney should be written as though it's going to mostly be needed when you need long-term care, because that's what happens. It's mostly used when you need long-term care because you can't handle your own affairs anymore. That and long-term care really go hand in hand.
Right.
There are other times when it's used, but 99 and 44, 100% of the time, it's when the principal needs long-term care.
Sure.
So write it that way. That's that article that I mentioned, the Cleveland Bar Journal, was on writing them with long-term care in mind. So name your agent with long-term care in mind, the person who's most likely to look after you. Might they be injured in the same car accident that causes you to need long-term care? Sure, that's why you have a second successor agent. Okay, but you name that person on the healthcare power of attorney or healthcare proxy or whatever it is in your state, and the general or business or whatever you call it power of attorney. Okay, don't name your son because he handles money better, and name your daughter as your healthcare agent, because if daughter reaches the end of her rope, son may not agree to hire help, and he controls the checkbook.
Yeah.
Give the person who's looking after, or most likely to look after you, okay, both the power to choose how your care is handled and to pay for it.
It's so true. And I have to say, in my family, my mother had somebody else be her financial power of attorney. in her hometown because that's where all of her bank accounts were, which made no sense to me because banking's down here in Seattle. It was just stupid, but that was her choice. And
Yeah.
so I was stuck with her care, but I had no authority to do anything. So I had all the responsibility to take care of her, but no authority.
Yeah.
And we had to fix that.
Empower the person who is going to take on the responsibility of your care.
Right. Right.
Because even if they lack a backbone, you know, your daughter who's likely to take you in doesn't really stand up to her siblings. She may grow an incredible backbone when her back is against the wall because the siblings aren't helping. Okay.
Yeah. Very
so
true.
Please empower the one that is likely to take you in, because if they get to the end of their rope, it hurts both them and you.
Right.
Empower them with the healthcare power of attorney and the general power of attorney. And as far as I'm concerned, you should all the people you name as your agent or your attorney, in fact, in order, remember, one at a time, but they can be, you know, first this person, if not this person, then that person, if not that person, then this other person. Okay, that's successors.
Right.
Keep that list the same for the healthcare power of attorney and the general power of attorney, and for the living will. Okay.
Now let's talk about living will.
Yeah, living wills may be different in every state. Okay, and for those who don't know what we're talking about right off the top of your head, this is the Terry Schiavo, Karen Ann Quinlan thing. Someone who suffers a brain death, and the family's trying to decide whether to let the body go, meaning turn off the respirator, or keep the respirator running. Okay, and what the choice to do a living will is. Usually, am I willing to die if my brain is gone, or am I not willing to die? Am I afraid of death and what's on the other side of it? Sure. I think that is the decision point for most people. But you can also write a living will that says, keep me alive as long as the money holds out, or keep me alive until the Browns win the Super Bowl, which could be forever. Okay. Hey, what, you know, just live with frustration here. I mean, we don't have Russell Wilson, you know, so what can I say?
Well, I don't think Seattle did too much this year either. So
yeah, but hey, you got a Super Bowl over there. We don't.
I know.
Hey, we're just up the road from Joe Burrow, who's making Cincinnati look great. So what can I say? You know, but if you say I'm terrified of death, and you can write the living will that way, just because you have a form. Ohio has a good form. Okay. I'm hoping other states have the same sort of thing. Some committee of learned people that creates a form. Okay. But in Ohio, we have a good form. Is it perfect? Oh, heavens no. But it's really a good start. Okay. But you can change the form. You can take the form as it is, cross everything out, put your initials there, and say, and in the special instructions or in the margin or something, I'm afraid of death. Try to keep me alive.
So here's another question I have. Usually I know that earlier this year, or last year ago, I had surgery on my hand. And when I went into the hospital, they said, which was a different hospital than I'd ever been to, which was kind of weird, but they basically said, oh, well, we have your living will, you know, document you signed at Swedish hospital. So obviously there's some sort of connection. Do you want to transfer that over, or do you want, and I didn't even know what they were talking about, but they had to have something because they were going to put me under. That was the rule.
Yeah. And that's typical, because there are just weird risks with surgery. My aunt, my mom's brother's wife, went in for relatively routine back surgery, but had an embolism, and she never came out.
And that's the thing. It's like, you never know. And so, but I was amazed that I had signed one like 20 years before, or 10 years before. It's 20 years before. And that document was still in my archive of, you know, obviously Providence Hospital and Swedish Hospital are on the same network, you know, and so they can tap in and they can see, you know, these x-rays. And it's kind of nice because then they know, you know, what you've had and what you haven't, you know, done.
That's the era of electronic medical records.
Yes.
It's a necessary evil, because the way insurance is handled now, you're not necessarily going to be at one place getting all your treatment.
Right.
You
So
bounce to this hospital for a CAT scan, that hospital for an examination, this other hospital for the actual
Sure.
surgery. Yeah, it just, without electronic medical records, we'd just be lost. Okay.
Yeah.
But in the living will, at least in Ohio, and I suspect most living wills are this way, because the living will doesn't take effect until you don't have brain activity.
Right.
Okay.
Right.
So there's really, the decision is unplug the respirator or not. And please leave people instructions on what you want.
Yes.
Okay.
And I think on top of that is if you have a document on file, like mine was 20 years ago, I had my ex-boyfriend on it, which was crazy. So obviously, now that I'm married, I had to update it. And I didn't even realize it when I got there. That was part of my prep for surgery. I did not realize that was an important document, even when I came into the hospital on all my prep, on my paperwork and all that. Those things were not reviewed with me. So obviously those things need to be revisited.
Yeah. But I bet your ex-boyfriend was on there not as a decision maker, because you filled out the form. That's the decision.
Right.
Okay. But as the person who would get notified
Right.
if you didn't have brain activity. Okay.
And it's like, what?
Yeah.
I haven't talked to him in
still,
20 years.
But that's part of my point. And I'm not saying the ex-boyfriend thing in 20 years old. Okay. That's not, that everyone ought to update these things from time to time when their life situation changes.
Right.
But within a family where there's strife, people who are on the living will are apt to say, oh, I'm named on living will, I'm in charge now, I get to make the decisions. Okay. So I suggest, just because there is that mistaken belief that if you're named on the document, you're in charge now. Okay. Name people in the living will to receive that unfortunate phone call that you're not showing brain activity, because then the job is to tell everyone else. Okay. Name them in the living will in the same order as in your powers of attorney. Spouse first, if you name your spouse first. Child most likely to take you in next. Child second most likely to take you in after that, and keep them in order. Then we don't have the child who's on the healthcare power of attorney, which is still in effect, by the way. Living will does not shut down the power of attorney, having to fight with the person named first on the living will over who's in charge, and the hospital or whomever has to step in the middle and sort things out.
Sure.
Keep them all the same. That avoids conflict at a time where conflict slows down your medical care.
Right.
So name everybody in the same order. Okay. I think that's very important. And you may say, oh, my family's never going to fight. Yeah, good luck with that. Okay. I can't name names from my clients, so I use a fictional one. Okay. When did Fredo Corleone die? This is the brother who betrayed Michael to the rival crime boss. When did Fredo die? After Mama died.
Yep.
Mama's presence kept the
them.
peace. It was an uncomfortable peace, but kept the peace.
Right.
Well, let's say Mama Corleone didn't die, but she had Alzheimer's.
Yeah.
I bet Fredo would have died. Okay. So yes, that's fictional, but I bet people that way, that the siblings don't like each other, but the presence of the parents keeps the fight from becoming a hot war.
Exactly.
Don't expect your family to be different.
Wow. Well, this is important. And obviously, when you die, there's a brand new bunch of things that happen after you've passed away. And I think we're going to go in this next two segments, and we're going to talk about wills and trusts. And Jim will be right back right after this. State of Ohio residents, you have a friend to help you navigate long-term care while protecting your assets. You can reach Jim at www.protectingseniors.com, or just email him at jkoewler-afe, that's jkoewler, AFE at protectingseniors.com.